Hi friends, today is Tuesday, May 5th, and we are going to get started on our new packet. Inside your packet, it's a little bit different from the packet that we had before because all of your different subjects are in one packet. So inside this packet, my packet says that it's the reading section and it's page 11. Now your page numbers might be a little different than mine since mine's on the computer, but you're looking for the reading section of your packet and you're going to try to find page 11. It has this fire truck on it. It also says lesson 18, explaining how images support texts. Our objective today is to be able to understand what images or illustrations can tell us about the text. Because we can get all types of clues and great information just by looking at the photographs or the illustrations of a piece of text. So what I'm going to do is I have a few pictures here I'd like to show you. If I were reading a book and I came across this illustration, before I even started reading the text or the words, I could look at this illustration and it would tell me a lot about what I need to know. It would tell me that this character right here looks like he's very kind, and this character right here looks like she really appreciates his kindness and helping her up. I didn't have to read any words in the story to be able to put that together just by looking at the photograph or the picture. Now let's look at this picture. If I were reading a book and I came across this illustration, I wouldn't have to read any words on the page to be able to identify what's going on in this picture. I see this boy is sitting outside the principal's office, and I know because of what I've seen in my life that if somebody's sitting outside the principal office with this sad or nervous look on their face, that probably means that they're in a little bit of trouble. So I wanted to show those pictures to prove to you that oftentimes we can get some really valuable information just by looking at the illustrations. Now, illustrations are the cartoon pictures that we see. Photographs are the real pictures that we see in texts. All right, I'm going to jump back to page number 11 in my reading section of my e-learning packet. And page number 11 says that looking at the pictures that go with the text can help you better understand what you are reading. When you read, pictures and other images can be just as important as the words. They can support or help explain information in the text. For example, diagrams are drawings that show different parts of something. They can show you how something works. I want to go down to page 11 where we see this diagram. Now that's a word that we haven't really talked about too much. A diagram explains how something works by labeling the different parts. Right here we see this fire truck that has been labeled with the different parts of the fire truck. We see the light, the cab, the hose, the ladder, the body, and the wheels. Diagrams are important pictures that show us different parts of something. Let's read the sentences below. Then we're going to look at the fire truck diagram. How do the sentences and the diagram pictures work together to help you understand the different parts of a fire truck? So as I read the text about the fire truck, I want you to keep your eye on the diagram so that you can really understand what the text is telling us. The driver of a fire truck sits in the cab. Okay, just a second here. What in the world is a cab? I know that cabs sometimes pick people up. I've seen them in movies. They're yellow. But that doesn't really make sense. The driver of a fire truck sits in a cab. Well, if I look at the diagram down here, I see that a cab is this section up front in the very front of the fire truck with the arrow is pointing to where the door is. So that must mean the cab is at the very front of a fire truck where the wheel is. So that makes sense, the wheel that you steer. So that makes sense why the driver would be up in the cab. I'm going to keep reading. A ladder and a hose are connected to the main part of the truck. This is another place where my diagram can help me out. Here's the ladder. Here's the hose. And it says that it's connected to the main part of the truck. So do you see where the ladder up here, here's the hose, this must be the main part because that's where the ladder and the hose are connected. I'm really glad I have this diagram to help me figure out exactly what this text is telling me about the fire truck. The hose is long and can stretch far from the truck. So there's the hose. It says it's very long and it can stretch very far from the truck. Okay, now that we've deep dived into our diagram and we have read the text, we're going to flip to page 12. Look at the page about the fire truck and fill in the chart to tell what you learned from the sentences and from the diagram. To do that, I need to switch over to my pencil, and you need to do the same. And let's see here. Let me find my pencil. All right, my pencil is popping up in just a moment. Okay, we have to tell what the text tells us. Well, if I flip back up to the fire truck page, the text tells us that the driver sits in the cab. Okay, so I'm going to write the driver sits in the cab. Notice that I made a capital T at the beginning of my sentence and I put that period at the end of my sentence. The driver sits in the cab. What does the diagram show us? The diagram shows us that the cab is the front of the fire truck. The cab is the front of the fire truck where the firefighters sit. Do you see how the text telling us that the driver sits in the cab and the diagram showing us what a cab is? Now you can understand how that helps us figure out this truck even better by having both the diagram and the text. What else does the text tell us? It tells us that a ladder and a hose are connected to the main part of the truck. Okay, so over here, what does the text tell me? The ladder and cab are connected to the main part of the truck. What does the diagram show us? Okay, here's the hose, here's the ladder, here's where it's connected. So the main part of the truck must be that big long part in the middle. The main part of the truck must be the big long part in the middle. All right, anything else that the text and diagram shows us? It shows us that the hose is long and it can stretch far from the truck. Tells us that the hose is long and can stretch far from the truck. What does the diagram show us? Well, it shows us that the hose looks like it can be stretched pretty easily. It also looks like it's not stiff. It's very loose so that it can wiggle around things. So I'm going to say the diagram shows us that the hose is bendable or flexible is another word that we could use for that. Great. One last piece of the puzzle on page number 12. It asks us to talk with the partner about how the diagram makes the sentences easier to understand. So how did this diagram about the fire truck, how does that help us to understand the text better? How did that help you understand the text? So tell somebody next to you. We also talked today about the word support. Support just means help. Diagrams are pictures that label things and show us where things are so we understand them better. And images are the same thing as pictures. All right, friends, today our objective was to read the text and to talk about how those pictures and diagrams really help us understand what we're reading better. If you have any questions, please reach out.